are not legally serving if you don't have an oath of office. Everything you did doesn't count. You're an actor.
You're not going to get your country back by watching a president fall off plane steps.
We're going back to 1776 all over again.
I'm here to save my country and at least live the rest of my life not under tyranny and communism.
This is Truth Be Told. Truth Be Told, hosted as always by attorney Todd Callender.
Good morning, Vax Choice family. We have a very big show for you today, focusing on targeted doctors. So if you're watching this on CloutHub, please know that on the bottom right-hand side of this video, you're able to watch the video with subtitles in your language. We want to make sure that this info is out there and out there for everybody of all languages. And if you don't have a CloutHub already, you should get one because it's the only censorship-free platform out there that's empowered by freedom. So good morning, Todd. Good morning, Sarah. Thank you so much.
Top of the day. Happy Friday.
Yes, thank you so much. I am super excited to see what our doctors have so bravely come forward to show the world today with their testimonies. Please, if you haven't already, please go to vaxchoice.com and sign up for our newsletter so that you can get updates on our important shows in the future coming up. So I'm going to step aside, Todd. I'll be in the background. The floor is yours and Sarah's to discuss some very important information. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. It's comforting to know you're in the background and you keep all this stuff working. Sarah, thank you. Thank you for coming. It's such a joy to have you here.
Well, thanks for having me host again with you, co-host this thing. I am honored to be here because this is an historic event that you're putting on and you're using your platform for.
Yeah, that's why we're here. I mean, it's the silly part about it is we see BlackRock and Warburg Pincus and all these money guys coming from Wall Street taking up equity positions in our competitors. All of a sudden, the content controls change. So this is it. Welcome to Freedom Central, God, Guns, and Country platform.
Well, you guys are just amazing over at CloutHub. I'm so honored to be involved with this. And today is really exciting because it's the first time in history that we have 5 prestigious experts, doctors coming and sharing their experience. This is a big deal.
It's a big deal because, as you were going to see, there's a video clip coming up here in a minute. We're here. We're not talking about the future. We're not saying, hey, watch out for 5G. This is going to be a problem. Hey, you might become a targeted individual through an anomalous health incident. They call it AHI, Savannah syndrome. It's here and it's here now. While everybody was sleeping and locked up, they turned on the whole thing. Would you mind showing us exactly where we're at, Melissa? Roll that bit of video if you would.
I mean, voices are the easiest ones because all you have to do is stimulate the cochlea with a set resonant frequency. It's very easy. Voices are very easy. And it isn't people imagining voices, they physically hear them. You can physically make people hear voices, certain voices, and it can be any conversation, and it can be anybody you want to hear. It can be a soft, angelic voice, it can be a god, it can be something that scares you like a devil. It could be anything. DARP.
Okay, they cut off it. What he was talking about, that technology is called voice to skull. And for people that don't recognize that, in the first Gulf War back in the early 1990s, right. You might have remembered all the Iraqi soldiers were throwing down their guns into the desert and surrendering to reporters. That is why U.S. Army intelligence beamed into the heads of the Iraqi soldiers, I am Allah, throw down your weapons, and they did en masse. So that's voice to skull. That was 30 years ago. I'm sure we had it before then, but that's when it was deployed. It's sad that that last little bit of the DARPA part didn't make it on. because it talks about how the 5G apparatus, the microwave towers, they are all here, and this is now, and they've got extraordinary control.
Yeah, they can do it with the microwave towers of 5G from the satellites. They can do it from all over the place. And it was even the CEO of the company that produced it, there was a TED talk saying, yep, I did it. And he explained how it works back with the Iraqi soldiers. But give me a minute here and explain the technology. You know how light, before we made light bulbs, light was all dispersed everywhere. And then they figured out how to control it and turn it into a light bulb. And then they figured out even more and controlled it and turned it into a laser. Sound waves are like light waves. They figured out how to control it and direct it. And so that's what they're doing. And they're doing it with any voice. They can do it with a dead relative. They can do it with anybody.
Oh dear God! I mean the depravity, Sarah. It just they know no bounds, and you and I have talked about this. I know we've talked about this, but I wonder: are these people? Are they people? Are they human? They can't be. To be this evil and sociopathic and care so little about people, literally pressing the button to drive somebody crazy, and now. This isn't just one person. I think the point of this symposium, and God bless all of our experts coming on here, is to help people understand this is the next vector in the extinction level event attack on humanity. It's here now. We got to do something about it now. And we're not going to get help from people in DC. That's for sure.
Well, and I think what people need to understand is how important targeted individuals are to their plan. They are being used as test subjects for what they're implementing and rolling out on everybody. There's a certain percentage that this stuff doesn't work on, 20 to 40%. It depends on who you talk to. And so they're doing experiments to figure out, I know at least some of the doctors ignore the voice to skull and it doesn't totally affect them. And so they're trying to figure out, the scientists at DARPA or whatever are trying to figure out what can they do to trigger them and force them to change. And so that's why it's just craziness that we're seeing, because it's one big experiment.
What kind of a person does that? I mean, it's just mind-bending. And this goes back to, it is evil. And it goes back to how could they be stopped? What stops? Nothing stops them. Why? Because your constitutional rights, your human rights, ladies and gentlemen, are suspended, and they are suspended globally. We are in the middle of an extinction level event. They've pulled out all the stops. They've been caught. So now it is a do or die. That's the issue. Either they succeed or we do. There's no in between.
That's exactly right, because they're looking for full spectrum dominance. That's from their language. That's their military language. And full spectrum dominance is not just political, but it's also control of our minds and our bodies. And that's what these targeted individuals are being used for, to develop that technology and to figure out how to control all of us.
It's a fifth generation kill box is what
That's
what
exactly
you're talking
right.
about.
Yep.
Okay, so with that said, we've got some fantastic speakers coming up. And by the way, I think we owe a debt of gratitude to Mr. Lighthouse, Richard Lighthouse, who really, this was his brainchild to put it together. He himself has suffered these things, and he's not just some guy. I mean, a lot of targeted individuals, they could be housewives, they could be people in school, they could be refuse engineers, whatever the case. He's not. He's an engineer, a very notable one with a storied career. And I welcome Richard to come kick this off, because this is really your baby.
Thank you, Todd. Thank you, Sarah. Yes, I agree. This is an important subject, and one that we hope to shed a lot of light on today. For those that don't know me, I'm Richard Lighthouse. I'm a board member at Targeted Justice. We first started Targeted Justice back in 2017. With three goals in mind: raising public awareness, education, and taking legal actions. And we've done a lot of each one of those. I want folks to pay particular attention to our doctors today, because these are some of the most credible subjects that people can listen to from all over the world. And if you're a person that's being told you're crazy, your family members or your coworkers are telling you you're crazy, this is the video that you can go to and say, look, I've got a bunch of medical doctors that say this is real. So that's what we hope to get out of this video. We want these doctors to confirm that, in fact, the targeting program is real, that they have personal experiences with it, and patients that they have tried to help. Further, if you're a targeted doctor or a targeted attorney, Targeted Justice would like to speak with you. You can reach us through our website, targetedjustice.com, our newsletter on Substack, or our email, tjustice2@proton.me. You can also go through our conference calls, Goji, Devin, Melody, Helen, and our newest GI Jane. So with that in mind, thank you for the introduction, and let's move on to Dr. Bear.
Wonderful. Okay, Dr. Bear, Dr. Len Bear, welcome to the symposium. I don't know if you've had the pleasure of meeting Sarah, but she's a pal. I was going to say, Sarah, you predate me in this fight a long way. So I admire you. I really, truly do. You got stamina and you're a bright gal. I really appreciate you bringing your credibility. Is Dr. Bear, is he ready? Oh, I'm sorry. I think we've got a presentation from him when Melissa's ready.
Hello, I am Len Bear, MD, a targeted individual and a board member of Targeted Justice, one of the organizers of today's first of its kind event. First of all, I would like to thank Vax Choice, Sarah and Todd and Melissa for their support of our efforts and providing their platform for this important event, as well as Richard Lighthouse of Targeted Justice for making this event possible. The subject of targeted individuals is not new, and knowledge of this heinous program is steadily spreading and moving this topic from the conspiratorial territory to reality. We as a society must acknowledge the reality of this program in order to enact the change and end this cowardly conducted program. Once you realize what's going on, you simply can't go back to things as usual. The atrocities conducted against our own citizens and against people worldwide are too inhumane to ignore. We must protect our fellow humans because you will be next. In fact, I personally believe that the end game for this entire program is for everybody to become neurologically enslaved, aka targeted individuals. Whether it's overt to targeted individuals or covert to everyone else, you need to understand that your brain is an open target. And if people who have access to this technology decide to punish you and eliminate you as a person, that constitutes extrajudicial punishment, which undermines our most basic rights. Doctors are no different. There are plenty of doctors who became targeted. The suicide rate among doctors is 300 to 400 persons per year. That's about one person per day. The fact that these are medical experts does not make them protected or invincible in some way from the effects of V2K and directed energy, also known as neurostrike. In fact, the more intelligent you are, the more damaging the effects of V2K can be, because you are fighting against yourself. That's what brain cloud interface allows with the help of this is what the brain cloud interface allows for with the help of AI. Not enough doctors are informed about the capabilities of modern directed energy weapon systems, and they're caught off guard. Another aspect of being a doctor that you know how diagnosis is made. And since you are working with the doctors who are unaware of the technology, you have to educate your physicians and get actively involved in the diagnostic process, guiding them and helping them to come to the right conclusion. Call it unfair advantage, but the same can be said about lawyers who sometimes find themselves on the wrong side of the law. My diagnosis of NKBI, formerly known as Havana syndrome, and obtaining disability with this diagnosis has a consensus of 7 physicians, 5 of whom have never heard of the condition before. Today, I will share my experience of going through this thorny road to my diagnosis. So maybe there is some hope. I also curate a medical page at targetjustice.com, um, link to which you will see at the end of my presentation. At today's event, we have 5 brave doctors who are stepping out of the shadows about their experience as targeted individuals and will share various medical aspects of their experience. I would like to tell you that this symposium was supposed to be larger, but there were multiple cancellations, mostly because of protecting their families, but also because they feared that their targeting would become worse. This is understandable. I hope this symposium will be seen by many doctors around the world who are either targeted and would like to talk about their experience from a medical perspective. I hope they join us at our future events because today's symposium, Targeted Doctors, is only the first of many. I'm hoping for a robust and productive conversation that would positively impact our fight for our freedom, whether you're a medical professional or not. Thank you, and let's have a great symposium. Hello again. My name is Len Bear, MD, and my presentation at today's symposium is called Thorny Road to the Diagnosis of NKBI. Next slide, please. So let's talk about terminology. As I was going through the diagnostic process, the government terminology for the attacks is and still remains AHI, or anomalous health incidents. However, Robert McCreight, a political scientist who advises NATO on modern technologies, has a better definition, better term that we should accept. It's called neurostrike, and it's defined as radio frequency directed energy pulse that acts as a neurocognitive disruptor, which is designed to harm, disable, and permanently damage a human brain. Much better definition than AHI, which is kind of amorphous. And then everybody knows Havana syndrome as a condition, and it is a misnomer. The correct diagnostic unit is NKBI. NKBI stands for non-kinetic brain energy, which means it's different from concussion, where a mechanical object damages your brain. But in NKBI, only the energy is moving that damages your brain. So it's been exactly 5 years for me. I've been targeted since April of 2019. So I had V2K, then I started getting neurostrikes, accompanied by vibrations, or the correct term for vibrations that you feel, this sensory phenomenon, is called buffeting. It progressed to the point that I had a myoclonic jerks, not a seizure because I never lost consciousness, but went to ER. I have a fully developed remote neural monitoring and intervention, which works in coordination with V2K and other neurostrikes, severe vestibular dysfunction, and quite serious cognitive decline. I'm officially have a premorbid dementia. Next slide, please. I put a timeline for you with some of the important events. So in April 19, my targeting began with V2K. In December 19, I was in AR with in ER at ER with myoclonus. In January 20th, my diagnosis was made by Dr. Hoffer at University of Miami, who diagnosed me with ANSD, and that's the previous diagnosis before NKBI. It's called acquired neurosensory dysfunction, and there are lectures, the papers you can find that explain why Dr. Hoffer could not call it mild traumatic brain injury. First, there was no concussion because it's synonymous with concussion, and the second one, the set of symptoms and manifestations were different from MTBI. So he came up with this temporary syndrome, but it all means Havana syndrome, and the findings that he found in me were congruent with the findings in the Havana cohort, which is the specific subset of Havana syndrome that is happening worldwide. Then there's a long gap, and you can ask what was going on. I was trying to get an investigation going through DOD, through FBI, with the help of my congresswoman and House of Representatives. Absolutely nothing would happen. But then in April 22 and in October 22, 6 months apart, I did a electric neuroimaging method, which is called QEEG. It stands for quantitative electroencephalogram, and we'll talk about it later. In August of 22, Dr. Giordano, I hope you know this name. He's a world-renowned neuroweapon expert in DC at Georgetown University. My case was confirmed, and he's forwarded for investigation to the DOD twice without any result. There was an escalation of my targeting after the lawsuit targeted Justice V. Garland was filed in January. There was a serious escalation. All plaintiffs reported the same thing. Since April of 23, I'm on disability with the diagnosis of NKBI, non-kinetic brain injury. And finally, there was a recent escalation that simply took me out of any social activity and lasted about 2 months after I published a lecture of NKBI. So that's the synopsis of my targeting. Please, next slide. Okay, let's talk about QEEG. The full name for this method is QEEG with SW Loretta. SW Loretta is a software package that analyzes the signals. So the difference between regular EEG that you see waves on a moving piece of paper. QEEG, quantitative, has a completely different approach. It actually creates imaging methods, and it's electric neuroimaging. It's for the longest time, it has been considered a complementary method to fMRI, which produces images. It's also a neuroimaging method, but it does not produce. It produces images of the structure and certain chemical things like distribution of water in the tissue, but it doesn't reflect the electrical changes. So, for example, if somebody looks at fMRI and tells you, "Oh, there's a activity at delta speed," they're lying. You can't. fMRI is not an electric imaging. It's just a neuroimaging. This is an example of this three-dimensional images produced with QEEG. You see a normal, a bunch of nodes, occasional disruption, and then this is from my first QEEG in April 2022. You see a massive disruption. All these dark lines represent connections at delta speed. Delta speed is the slowest between 0 and 3 hertz, and you're not supposed to see this kind of activity in the awakened state, only in a deep state or hypnotic state. And I can tell you that 6 months later, I did a second QEEG. I insisted on doing it because I wanted to show progress. And since it's a quantitative method, you can show progress. And so the global number of delta connection of these broken connections, slow connections, was 400% higher. Next slide, please. Let's talk about fMRI, because the government community, the clients of attorney Mark Zaid, they all rely on this method. It's considered to be the golden standard, and yet these are the studies that were done. fMRI studies were done in patients with NKBI or patients who experienced AHA. The first one came out in 2019 in JAMA. There were 4 participants with AHI and 48 controls. Just recently, JAMA also published a larger study that was sponsored and paid for by NIH, and it had 86 participants with AHI and the same amount of control. Just by looking at it, I can see the intent of this latest study to dilute the affected study, but we'll talk about it later. So in the first study, in the 2019 study, the significant difference between a group exposed to AHI and healthy controls was detected. In this new study, in the latest study, a significant difference between participants with AHI, but not between all AHI and controls were detected. The leading method that showed most difference is called DTI, or diffusion tensor imaging. That's the method that was showing the most difference. Diffusion fMRI measures alterations of water diffusivity in the brain. Doesn't show brain connectivity or electric disruption. It simply shows how the water moves through the tissues. And ultimately, the mechanism behind diffusivity changes are not well understood. But what is well understood is electrical connectivity using QEEG. So what I'm trying to say is that we, a non-government community of victims of neurostrike/AHI, we found a method that would help clients of Attorney Zaid, because they only rely on fMRI and they are not relying on the methods that we in the non-government community found. So I'm calling for more collaboration between the government employees affected by DHI and civilian victims, so we can pull together our intellectual powers and come to the right conclusion. Next slide, please. So why did this latest NIH study fail to show the difference? On this slide, I combine my thoughts with the thoughts of Dr. Relman, who wrote an editorial in the same issue of JAMA. Dr. Relman was a chair of the National Academy of Sciences consensus report and a co-chair in the intelligence community report. And the difference, the National Academy of Sciences, not everybody on the panel had a security clearance, and intelligence community report in 2022, everybody had clearance. So that report is going further. It was not published, it was obtained via FOIA, and a lot of it is redacted, but at the same time, a lot of it is very helpful and needed to be understood by the doctors. So I highly recommend going to the source. So this is a summary of why it failed. Heterogeneity of AHI cases, heterogeneity of exposure. Once again, 48 patients versus 86 patients. Various duration and intensity of AHI on neurostrikes. Lack of clear case definition and acceptance of participants by referral. Basically, they took everybody that the Department of Justice or Department of State sent them to add to the study without checking their without having any criteria. They basically just accepted them by referral. Variable delays from symptom onset and clinical assessment from 1 day to 1,495 days. That's kind of variability we're talking about. Dilution of important signals from a cluster of affected individuals. Once again, the pool of AHI affected patients doubled, and a lot of them were simply sent by referral. That diluted the signal. And what's interesting, one of the recent study by Salkinas state that pulse RF energy with different configuration can affect neuronal electric activity without causing discernible structural damage. Structural damage measured by fMRI. Neuronal electric activity measured by QEEG. That's a hint that we have the right method. Current fMRI technology may be insensitive to improperly timed out to the kinds of potentially transient cellular and local physiological disruption that characterizes AHI neurostrike, says Dr. Relman. And he also mentioned that new sensitive standardized methods of neuroimaging are required. And we have the answer. Next and last slide, please. All right, non-kinetic brain injury is not going away. It's not exclusive to diplomats and spy. It's a matter of public safety and security. DOD refuses to investigate civilian cases. FBI refuses to investigate civilian cases. Congress Intelligence Committee refuses to investigate civilian cases. So it is our duty to educate our colleagues about the reality of NKBI. Next slide, please. Here's what Dr. Relman writes in his editorial in 2024 JAMA. Prejudice and poorly supported assumption must be set aside. Clear and timely public communication is essential. The delivery of appropriate non-judgmental care must be initiated without delay. The experience with AHI provides valuable lessons for clinicians, the scientific and national security communities, and national and international policymakers. We ignore them at our own collective peril. I agree with Dr. Elman wholeheartedly, except with the treatment part. I'm referring you to my Substack, which is titled Treatment for Reoccurring Ongoing NKBI is Not Medical. It's removing the weapons that produce that nerve strike. That's my presentation. On the next slide, my coordinates, where you can find me. Thank you very much, and let's have a wonderful rest of our symposium.
Wonderful. That's stunning, Doctor. Thank you for putting that forth. Sarah, I know you've got questions, and I've got one, but you go first.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having the courage to come forward and talking about this. I know it's difficult. I noticed that you talked about Dr. Giordano, who is one of the foremost experts on this technology, who, works with the military. He helped you on this. So are there members like him who are trying to help American citizens and people in this country who are under attack?
I believe so. I spoke to many experts. For example, there's a professor of engineering in one of the universities that said that he actually wrote an article, and I contacted him and said, the fact that we are denying the existence of a directed energy weapon that work against personnel, so-called anti-personnel directed energy weapon. This is just baloney. I make directed energy weapons in my laboratory all day long. And
that's right.
He said, and when he wrote that short commentary following the National Academy of Sciences consensus report, he received a call from the U.S. Army and Air Forces, and he was told not to speak about it publicly because he will lose all his grants. So that's one of the methods how these people with good intentions can be manipulated. And yes, Dr. Giordano, actually one of the few experts who spoke and mentioned and admitted the existence of civilian cases. So there is hope, but there's a lot of dirty tricks that they can do to silence these people.
I want to say, Doctor, I am sitting here scratching my head as you went through this whole thing. I've watched a lot of Professor Giordano's videos, a lot of them, probably hours of them. And correct me if I'm wrong, but he helped actually make these weapons working for DARPA while he was a professor at Georgetown University. What kind of a person is that? I keep scratching my head. Who would make such a weapon, understanding that it's going to be used on people, much less, the public, like you said, civilians?
Well, he has a conflict. He received a government contract. He's a part of it. He signed the non-disclosure agreements, and then he finds out that it's used on civilians, and he is bound by these contracts. But he's doing everything that he can to bring this to the light. A similar thing happened to Robert Duncan, who was pulled out of his Harvard. Like he was finishing his thesis on computer holography, and he was hired by the CIA, and he worked on actually V2K.
Yeah.
And they told him that it would be used against foreign adversaries, and he simply said, "I was naive, and I thought I was helping my country." And then as soon as he found out that it's used on civilians, he quit. But still, certain things he cannot say because he told me he would not spend the rest of his life in the federal prison.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. I was just going to say, in all of this, in all of the experts, yourself included, with these resources, I pray that you all are working on a solution to this. The only solution I can understand is get rid of the damn 5G towers. That's not going to solve, satellite problems, but it's a start.
Well, isn't there solutions that we got to get engineers involved? The guy you were talking about who's creating these weapons all day long. Why, instead of creating the weapons, let's start creating solutions to neutralize the weapons. There's geniuses all over the place. And I think, Todd, you asked, why are these, what's wrong with these people? And I think, I've been thinking about this a lot too. Scientists get enamored with the science and they're so excited about what it could do. I remember me young in my career about what it could do. And it takes you a while to get the wisdom to say, okay, how do we put this in context of what's good for humanity? And I don't think all scientists ever, a lot of them never get to that point. And they're just enamored with the science.
Yeah, I think that's true. And then I know there's a level of compartmentalization that happens as well. They work over here in a silo. They have no idea what the end product looks like, just that they're responsible for this piece of it. And by the time it's all assembled, you've got a weapon. And I guess that's the important part here too, Doctor. That you and all of your colleagues, God bless you for going through this and demonstrating and giving it credibility, because it really has to help people come to understand it's all of us. We're all targeted individuals. We are all marked for destruction. Right? They've already told us they're going to depopulate the planet by 7 billion people. That's most of us. So wake up and smell the coffee.
Well, do you have any idea where these signals are coming from? You're an experiment. They're doing experiments on you, and have you guys been able to target it?
Well, I can only communicate what I've heard from the experts like Richard Lighthouse. We think it's being delivered by satellites, by drones. It can be delivered from a platform. You don't have to be. A lot of people think that this is their neighbors are doing it, and if that's the case, then they need a lot of energy, and it's just highly unlikely, and it's also discoverable. But they want you to think that it's coming from somewhere in your house or somewhere from your neighbors. So you would go and break the law or destroy your own house. That's the kind of psyop operations they are running. It's nowhere near you. It can be delivered from a long distance.
Well, I think you're right. You talked about how the awareness needs to increase. And as the awareness increases, we can get more. They know they're the ones creating it, the scientists in the labs and in the universities and things. But as the awareness of the public increases and the medical doctors who are on the front lines, that can force the solutions to start being created. And we need to be on solution phase right now. And the Congress and people need to move and realize this is going on so that we can end. We got to protect our people and end it.
We're not going to get any help out of Congress.
Clear.
We're not going to get it. Listen, all of this was put in place by Congress. All of these laws were passed. All of the funding happened by our government. Your government isn't here to help you. They're here to kill you. With that said, we've got another expert. I laugh because it's like gallows humor, because that's where we're at. We've got another Dr. Priester, Sally Priester coming up. I think our timing is about right if she's ready. Dr. Bear, my Lord above, thank you, sir. Thank you for all of your efforts. Thank you for sharing and for being a part of the solution.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. I assume we've got Dr. Priester here. Sarah, what else did you take away? Oh, here we go.
Excellent. Another brave soul coming forward and sharing her expertise.
Can you hear us, Doctor? You might be on mute. In fact, it looks like you're on mute. Maybe Melissa can unmute you.
Does she have video?
While you work that out, there was a few other things that Dr. Bear had to say that were really striking to me. Did I understand it correctly? I was looking at his graph, and he said it first started Y2K. Y2K was like the turn of the millennium, was it not?
That was, and I talked to him on the phone before we did this, his presentation, and he was getting a lot of voice to skull. That's what he gets on a daily basis. And the thing is, they're doing neural monitoring. So before, like he was talking about how he'd reach for a donut or something, and before he does that, he'll get a message in his brain saying, "Don't eat that, you'll get fat." Things like that. Yeah. So they're neural monitoring and knowing what they're going to do. And then, so it goes back to a server, goes back, and then gets fed into, him. And then these people are crazy. He's saying he fights that. He's saying he fights he doesn't want to do and acknowledge the voice of skull. So he's somebody that I've been thinking about this. He's using this. They're using him as a lab rat to figure out how do we get around people who fight us.
Yes, exactly. Doctor, I've got something on that point, but Doctor, your time is precious. Are you able to talk to us?
Is she there?
Test 1, 2, 3, Doc. If not, what I wanted to say to you, Sarah, I'm sure she'll Doctor, jump in whenever you can. I've been looking at the targeted individual thing. People come to our law firm all the time. Please help me. And in the early days of this whole thing, I'm talking 2020, we had people showing up to our law firm from different countries all over the planet, and they said they heard the exact same message in different languages. Take the vaccine, it will be okay. So not only were we offered Krispy Kremes and lap dances and liquor, but they were actually using voice to skull, this kind of technology. And no wonder why everybody was, and to this point, sir, I still can't understand. People are going to get their boosters? Huh?
Well, there's a huge percentage of population that are affected by this highly. And then there's a percentage that aren't, that just doesn't work. And that the lab rats are to figure out how to get to the rest that doesn't work.
Yeah.
Richard Lighthouse, the chief engineer here, he's a brilliant man. He talked at the beginning. He's saying that all of us are targeted. Every single one of us. And they're tracking us through the back. We all have a resonant frequency. They're tracking all of us, and they're sending subliminal messages to all of us. I don't remember getting any messages. So apparently it doesn't work on me, right? I'm like, did you get any messages?
I have to tell you, I second guess myself a lot of the time. I'm going to come back to the top of your head thing with Dr. Teresa Long, one of our expert witnesses, but I have to tell you, I don't hear words exactly, but I sure get notions, and I credit them to our Creator, to God, because it's led me on this trail to things like the 18 gigahertz signal and how we discovered the zombie apocalypse plans that the CDC are preparing for a zombie apocalypse. We found that the federal government, the military, was preparing for this thing. And so anyway, a lot of the information that I get, and Lisa McGee, our star researcher, we get kind of downloads, and I call them God whispers. And given that they're driving us to this discovery, I doubt they're coming from the bad guys. But so the answer to your question in a very roundabout way, yeah, I do, but I'm wondering if it isn't a function of discernment. Maybe it's our natural defense to this stuff.
Well, I think about that too. It's like maybe we're protected and we're getting messages from the good side. I don't know. Yeah. But yeah, I feel like I get downloads too. It just suddenly I'm ready to do something.
I figured.
But
yeah, I figured that.
It's kind of common, right? In this, people like us doing on the edge of this research, but I didn't get the other messages, and I'm just wondering. Yeah, and I'm just. But I know that they have that capability. I know, and the more we research, the more I'm wondering, are we protected or what's going on? But I find it fascinating with his last presentation, the fact that Giordano was helping him. And
Yeah, I'm
to me, that's
encouraged by that.
hopeful, actually. I mean, I don't
It is
I, like,
hopeful.
I think that's hopeful. And I keep saying, like in the show that I did today, is we need people within BlackRock and within big tech and within these universities realizing what's going on and being our allies in this fight, because
Well,
we need you.
we do need we do, and I wanted to come back to the whole Dr. Long issue. She was the woman that really her testimony around the world. She was the lady in our lawsuit right after we filed our temporary restraining order against the DOD. Her testimony was, hey, there's polyethylene glycol, otherwise known as antifreeze, in these shots. Don't take them. And so this was a very unpopular view inside of the military, but in times after that, she was noticing that a lot of the soldiers on her base had, just kind of a bald spot in the top of their heads. People who had not been bald before, and all of a sudden they've got a little piece on the top of their heads missing hair. And then she noticed over time that it was aggravated. And so she was tracking this down and backwards. And this is actually how we stumbled onto, wasn't stumbled onto, we were led to the wireless body area network. And all of these programs that are exactly as Dr. Bear described, they're tracking people. And it turns out that just what you said a second ago is that the satellites and the towers and God knows what are tracking GPS coordinates on people as they're walking along and going through their daily activities. So it's very much an active thing. And so I don't know, that sounds a little bit more passive, but I'm sure we're being tracked. If not, Sarah, these stupid things. And the reality is we've got to go back to a simpler time where your phone is more like that one.
Yeah, well, or we have frequencies that resonate with that harmonize with the human body, and they don't track all of us. And we have laws, or somehow we can block it. We have tools that can neutralize those frequencies and the bands that are affecting us, because we all have a resonant frequency. We all have an innate frequency, and that's what they're tracking.
That's exactly right.
Melissa,
otherwise known as the wireless body area network. Melissa, what did you discover?
Hi, I just got off the phone with Dr. Sally Priester. She's doing what she can to make it work. She just rejoined the room, but we currently don't have her video feed. She just popped in. Let me see if we can get it to work. Hi, Dr. Sally. Can you hear us?
Hi.
Can you hear me?
There we go. Yes, I hear you.
Thanks to the Lord. Thank you. I'm very happy that this is working right now.
Yes, we are too. You have a presentation for us that you would like to show everybody. Now that we've got that tech glitch out there, I'm going to step back out so I can go through the slide for Dr. Sally Priester.
Fire away. Thank you. Melissa, I think she had a pretty weak signal too, and I don't know if she's able to.
Well, she's in the room. She should still be able to talk. Can you talk, Sally?
Yes. Now I can hear you. Before I was not able to hear nothing. Now I can hear you.
Okay. Fire away, doctor. We're a little bit behind schedule.
Okay, let's go. Thank you so much, and for opportunity to pass choice and targeted individual and the public who's going to be seeing this amazing program. Thank you for all you do. Let me know when I'm gonna start in the slide.
I was just trying to be quiet, so fire away. Carry on.
All right, so I'm Dr. Sally Priester. I'm a physician and scientist. I did my internship at UTSA and the fellowship in Texas A&M, and I'm under GAD order right now. So in this slide that you have the opportunity to show the people, this is in Spanish on your left side. On the right side is in English. So this means in English, whereby after a thorough discussion on April 14, 2021, the board agreed to start a formal complaint process against Dr. Sally Priester, me, and also orders a cease and desist against her. Desist from expressing, communicating, and or endorsing messages without legitimized scientific grounds against the health effort that the government or described to alert and protect the population about the spread and contagion of the SARS-CoV-2 virus, as well as any of its variants. And this happens in 2020, 2021, April 14. They got a discussion, so they were talking to give a gag order to me to the future. This is what I said in this page. Next slide, please. And the next one, while we're working with the slide, I will like to do a disclosure statement, which is very, very important. I am currently under a gag order from the Puerto Rico Medical License Board, prohibiting me from expressing any information about COVID-19 and the experimental injections. The gag order is an unconstitutional restriction of my free speech rights. My participation in this symposium, targeted doctor symposium, cannot be used by the Medical Board of the Health Department of Puerto Rico, the government of Puerto Rico, and the Secretary of Justice of Puerto Rico or the court as well retaliation against my medical license or my case at the Appeal Court First Circuit in Boston, USA. Next slide, please. Targeted doctor symposium is very important. I hope a lot of physicians are watching this right now. First, the attack process is called targeting. The victims of the attack as targeted individual or TIs are common names usually the victim has. Targeted individual include children. This is very important. Some physicians are targeted individuals. We refer to the people behind the targeting as the attackers or perpetrators. Next one, please. The end result of which is expected is to be the neutralization of the victims. What that means, adding their names to the domestic terror list, modifying their thought process and their behavior, entrapment, stealing their money, attacking them with microwave through the use of direct energy weapons, broadcasting microwave auditory effects, as known as B2K, to the brain, causing non-kinetic brain injury, formerly known as Havana syndrome. Please, next one. This happens 24/7 with broadcasts of subliminal message, entrap them into crimes, subject them to side ups such as a gang stalking, place artifact in their bodies, or injected them without informed consent. Varied torture act tactics, totally insulating the targets from friends and family, sending them to mental institutions, prisons, or causing their eventual death. Next one, please. Also, defamation in the case of physicians, persecution, humiliation, conspiracy, restriction against your consecrated rights in the amendments to the constitutions, gag order against your freedom of speech. Next one, please. In my case, I want to share these pictures. This happens in 2007 in the malaria epidemic in Africa. At that time, Dr. Tedros was in charge as the first Minister of Health. What happened? Dr. Tedros right now is the person in charge of the entire pandemic treat that is going to be signed probably in May, and the rest of the pandemic since it started on 2020. Next one, please. This symposium about a novel virus, C19, I brought from Texas, Dallas, Dr. Richard Quesada, who is an epidemiology doctor, infectious disease doctor, internal medicine. He did a fellowship with me in Texas A&M. So he came to Puerto Rico, and we did on Friday, 6 March 2020, the first symposium in one of the big hotels in San Juan, Puerto Rico, to talk about SARS-CoV-2, the new virus. March 6, 2020. Thank you. Next, please. Okay, these two pictures right here together, the one on the left, which is the hospital Presbyterian who has alliance with the Presby in New York, in Puerto Rico, San Juan, become to be the most important hospital because received the first case of the upper respiratory tract infection from the cruise for the big boat from Italy lady who was there for 10 days and then passed away as the first person labeled with the news virus. And the other picture is the Ashford Medical Center where my office is crossing from the hospital. I was there, I never closed my office, and I attended thousands of patients all alive with prevention, and nobody died with the labeled new virus. Next one, please. Okay, this happens in November 29, 2020. This is very important picture because in the center is a park, and of course, as a physician with a group of anti-vax warriors, name it, Médicos por la Verdad, Doctors for the Truth, who were fighting the tyrannical government measures. This is the place, Plaza La Libertad, San Juan, Puerto Rico. You can see on the 29th of November 2020, they were not using masks. They were sitting over there listening to us, telling them the truth. And then people went outside to the street with big cartoons say, don't believe in this, we have to fight. This is a tyranny measures. Next one, please. Okay, this one, ciudadanos se reúnen en condado y cuestionan emergencia de COVID. The same day, what happened is the news arrived over there and they spoke about Doctors for the Truth. In my case, I was the doctor talking about that we were talking about the emergency, that was not true, the emergency. And then the physicians, the College of Physicians and Surgeons from Puerto Rico said to the media the same afternoon that what I said was very irresponsible and dangerous. Next one, please. Okay, and this one, everybody can see this, can take a picture. I think it's a very, very important. The Dr. Priester, who is me, without putting them in the proper context, they took those words. I'm referring to the pandemic as a pandemia. How dare they make a campaign out of terror and impotence? It is a lack of respect when in the medical community and for doctors to lend themselves to do this kind of thing. And this, please, ending this farce. In relation to the management and efforts of access to health service, Dr. Priester expressed with false information, and we quote, translation of course, I don't understand why medical centers such as CDT, Diagnostic and Treatment Center are closed, forcing patients to receive care solely at emergency rooms. It is unbelievable to hear that they cannot contact primary care physicians. Don't let them scare you anymore, because a time will come when the 14 days of incubation will not exist, and the health department is going to have to, in its judgment at some point, it is going to have to explain where it has gotten so much data that is now scientifically proven globally. We don't have to wait for any vaccine. Not child is going to be vaccinated. The facts right here that I wrote, it's first fact. The complaint letter was sent to the license board without, without giving Dr. Priester the due process, or to me, the due process established by the association's regulations, and without giving her the opportunity to respond to the allegation of unethical misconduct. The second fact that I want to bring, on December 1st, when the complaint, and let me repeat this again, on December 1st, 2020, when the complaint letter was sent to the license board, there were not complaints or allegations against me, Dr. Priester, about her medical practice or patient care. When I was talking about the 14 days, today the CDC has no information at all to support the 14 days to lock down the planet and lock down the people and the kids at their homes. So now is zero. There's still 2024 with no data that support that kind of planet lockdown and stuff like that, of course. And now we have more scientific that we can prove more dangerous became to be the lockdown. So next one, please. Defamation, persecution, humiliation, conspiracy, targeted. As a physician, when I received this, this is a quick, small. I would like everybody to know what happened at those meetings where the president of the College of Physicians and Surgeons was talking. Attempted to combine members of the association governing board to ratify his ultra-virus action of referring the complaint letter against me, Dr. Priester, to the license board without the due process established under the association general regulation. Please, if you can play, appreciate it. Thank you. Subtitles is in English.
Dr. Sally, we unfortunately can't play audio files on the presentations through this restream.
Okay.
My apologies.
Okay. So we can read only this vote had no justification for it to submit a vote on December 4th. They were trying to have the vote after the fact that they submitted the letter with no information. Next one, please. Okay. This is one of the number of different media attacking about what happened. And then through safe process, member of the license board along the member of the health department persecute me, Dr. Priester, because of my public expression related to the government's COVID-related restriction. Me, Dr. Priester, was never given the opportunity to confront the evidence or alleged witness that the association presented against me in the investigate phase. In this case, so I began to be in the first page of the newspaper media, national media, about the physician who was saying the virus doesn't exist. So an ethic process started over Dr. Priester. And she answered back with a lawsuit. Next one, please. So in national media in the United States, defamation, persecution, humiliation, conspiracy by the media. So this is a very huge from politics of coverage media that got published about Sally Priester and anti-vaccine movement in Puerto Rico. That because Puerto Rico ran the most successful vaccination campaign in the U.S. So all the national media became to be against with defamation and conspiracy about what I did and what I said. Next one, please. So in this phase of the time, after almost 4 years, so we are now in the United States Court of Appeal for the first circuit, Dr. Sally Priester against Puerto Rico Department of Health, the president of the Association College of Physicians and Surgeons from Puerto Rico, and also Examination Board of Physicians in Puerto Rico. We are waiting now in the first circuit of Boston Appeal Court. Next one, please. So this is a small video. I know we can now run this video, but this is the reason about why I was saying children are not gonna get the vaccine. Children will not be vaccinated, and this is an artifact which is not normal in the medicine for decades. This is one vaccinated kid, and for this kind of stuff, they restricted my right to my First Amendment of my freedom of expression in November 29, 2020 until right now. We're still working against to this kind of measures against the health. And this is my call to everyone. The call of action is to fight for your health, fight for your Constitution, fight for your First Amendment, and don't be quiet, please. Thank you. Thank you to all.
Well, thank you, Sally. Actually, I think I am able to play that little video clip from your PowerPoint if you would like me to now. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and play it. It looks like.
Yeah, go ahead. She's poor thing. She's really struggling. By the way, it's not like we don't get attacks.
Right. Okay, here's the audio.
Señor presidente, esa es su interpretación y ese es el problema. No podemos interpretar ni asumir porque mire el tronco de revolú que tenemos ahora, innecesario. Había que hacer los procesos. A menos que alguno de ustedes haya llamado a Sari a decirle que no hubo votación, doctor Mercado.
Wow, that sounded very heated.
Yeah, I hope that you could see the translation at the bottom. If not, we'll try to get that out. Dr. Sally, are you still able to talk? This is how you know people are targeted, because if you look at her little icon there, we never have that. That's never a symbol that we have where it's just totally blank like that. So
it's not the first time. I got to tell you, this is the whole point, isn't it, of this symposium? She was targeted, in a different way. She's being targeted at this very moment, but I mean, holy cow, they really went after her to shut her up. And I think part of that was you can't say there's no viruses. We have a lot of doctors on our side of this thing that are questioning whether a virus exists according to the current definition. Everybody seems to agree there are pathogens, but there are real questions as to whether there are transmissible proteins, these pathogenic things described as viruses, and if so, what form are they? And of course, some of our experts, Dr. Long included, Dr. Lee Vliet, various others have said, Dr. Chambers, a targeted individual himself, that every disease known to mankind can be recreated with EMF radiation.
That is true. Yeah.
Unbelievable. Can you hear us, doctor?
Are you able to speak, Dr. Sally? It looks like we have audio coming through on your end.
What a shame.
You might not be able to hear us. Well, if you would like to contact Dr. Sally or get a hold of her, please visit targetedjustice.com. She is also on the advisory board of Targeted Justice, as well as Dr. Anna Mihelcha, who unfortunately couldn't make it today to the symposium. It looks like she's trying.
Okay. Well, what about...
we lost her again. All right. Well, next up, we have Dr. Linda Pimenta. Oh, Dr. Priester just popped in. We'll try one more time. Dr. Priester, can you talk? Can you speak, doctor?
No.
Oh, darn. All right. Well, unfortunately, we'll have to move forward. I'm very sorry about that, Dr. Sally. But next is, like I said, Dr. Linda Pimenta, and I'll bring her in now, and I will back out.
Welcome.
Thank you. I can hear you fine. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, super. Sarah, did you have anything? I saw you sitting there like you wanted to say something, and I didn't mean to.
No, that's okay. You guys had all these issues with her. I just am. She's with the tech and whatever, but she was just heavily targeted. I would have liked to ask her a couple questions, but it was so difficult. It was like she was being made as a symbol of what not to do. You can't, and you brought up the question, you can't have debate in science. We're in the dark ages where they're cramming down their view. We have technocrats that have determined what something is in science, and you can't question anything. We've lost the ability to have normal debate. If it's like science is more, you can debate it less than you can religion. It's more extreme than the religion.
My goodness gracious. Well, with that said, Dr. Linda, I bet you have an opinion on this. So welcome. Thank you for coming. I appreciate it.
Okay. I'm going to talk a little bit on the psychological part of targeting.
Wonderful.
As that's one of my
Please, because I got to tell you, I'm nuts. After 4 years of fight like this, I'm crazy. And my Lord above, Sarah, you've been at this for a long time. I don't know how you keep your sanity.
It's hard. So I'm just glad there's more people coming in. So that's why I appreciate these conversations.
Yeah. You and me both. All right, doctor. Do you have everything set up, or you need Melissa to lend hand?
I think she was going to put my presentation.
Oh, there you go. All right.
So I'm Dr. Linda Pimenta, and I am a nurse practitioner. I am board certified in both family practice and as a psych mental health nurse practitioner. And a little bit about me that I think is important for you to know as I go through my presentation as far as my targeting goes. I retired from the federal government as a senior executive. I worked for the VA, and I was one of the 4 people that would run the VA hospital. I had run VA hospitals at several places across the country. So that's gonna, that it's important for you to know that. Okay, next slide. Okay, so the goals of targeting, again, I'm going to focus mostly on the psychological part. So the goals of targeting is number 1, gaslighting, and that is so they try to make the individual themselves second guess themselves, that they're going crazy, that they're hearing things or seeing things, or things are happening to their body that nobody else is experiencing. And then to discredit the individual. And they do this by spreading terrible rumors about them and getting people to come along with what they're doing. And of course, when they're gaslighting somebody, it really does make other people question, is this person crazy or not? And then mind monitoring and mind control. And we did hear a lot about that. That's not my expertise, just that it is part of this program. And I think every targeted individual experiences this. Targeted individuals are in a constant state of harassment and torture. And they hope that the targeted individual will get to the point of not being able to take it anymore, that they'll technically go off. What I mean by that is, will they commit suicide? Will they do something that they can get arrested for? Will they be able to be admitted involuntarily to a psychiatric facility? Or, will they do a mass shooting? And of course, in my experience with my targeting, when they try to do certain things to me, there will be several people sitting around acting as if they're regular people and they all have their cell phones on, hoping that they're going to get me to do something. And I don't, thank God I haven't yet. But for a lot of people, this targeting continues until death. It's unfortunate. Next slide. All right, so some of the really concerning traits in targeting, and I say personally, the betrayal, is that you have the police departments or the fire departments that will try to talk people into going to the emergency room for an emergency psychiatric evaluation. And a lot of times these are set up ahead of times. If they get the family members involved, I don't know how they get the family to turn on their targeted individual, but sometimes that happens. I know for me, when I was working in Kentucky and they had broken into the townhouse that was being built next to me, and they had breached the wall between the two of us and gone into my attic. And I would call the police saying there's somebody in my attic or they're in my wall. And of course, when the police are there, the owner of the townhouse won't let the police access it, so they can never see anything or confirm anything. So one time, one of the police officers told me I was paranoid and insisted I go to the emergency room for an evaluation. And he insisted that I was paranoid and that I was maybe experiencing some psychoses. And I am thankful that God put these words into my mouth, because I don't usually do this at a time of crisis, but when it's my own crisis. And I said, I want to know what your credentials are to say what you just said to me. Because a 4-hour class on psychiatric emergencies does not give you the right to say I'm paranoid and that I require a psychiatric evaluation. I'm board certified in psychiatry. And I gave him some science that said a woman at 60, I think I was 60 at the time, does not all of a sudden experience psychoses or paranoia unless it's with another disease like dementia. And I did not have any of that. Anyway, so it's really concerning that they do that, and they bring people in, and sometimes they get these people to be admitted involuntarily to the psychiatric hospital. And if you, this is important to know, if you are involuntarily admitted to a psychiatric facility for 72 hours or more, you're termed a mentally defective person. And the impact that that can have is, if you want to buy a firearm, you're flagged. And I know that this information is shared, and I can't tell you exactly who it's shared with. And it's up to the individual to prove that they're not mentally defective. So that's where they want to go and have these people admitted. First, it discredits them, so people will believe them. It further isolates them, and it makes it easier for them to continue to do what they're doing to them. Some people are forced to take antipsychotics or other psychiatric meds. I've heard many people who've called me and said that they were taking them against their will. And so that's another thing that you want to consider if someone's trying to prescribe something for you. I wouldn't take it unless you truly do have the symptoms that they're treating. Another concerning thing is that the utility and construction companies, they're all involved. I don't know how they get these people, but the cable company, they mess with the cable. The telephone company, although we don't really have telephones anymore, but what's that? There's a communication company that used to be telephones, and now they do fiber optic. The electric company, and they'll mess with your electricity. They'll mess with your bills. They'll shut your power off. They'll do all kinds of things. And then it's up to you to fight to make things right. Next slide. All right, so you did hear a little bit about my targeting. Excuse me. I don't focus a lot on my targeting. I really prefer to leave it behind. As far as I know, it began in 2013. And it began with somebody pulling up in front of my house for hours and sitting there and watching my house and looking around at different, I think what they were looking at is how can they access me in my house. I was living in New Hampshire at the time, and but I have experienced targeting everywhere I go. It doesn't matter, a hotel, a resort, if I move cross country for my job, it doesn't matter where I go, they're there. New Hampshire, Utah, Kentucky, Massachusetts, Nevada, back to New Hampshire, in several places, Florida, New York, Connecticut, New Jersey, Maryland, and I didn't put down Virginia and West Virginia as well. I have been exposed to chemicals, and I'm still being exposed to them, and it smells like it's something corrosive. It actually causes a bunch of different symptoms, but one of them is I actually get blisters, and I think the blisters are along my intestinal tract. That's what they do to try to make you have that diarrhea, but they are also targeting the genitalia. So I get those water-filled blisters inside. It's just it's terrible. In Havana syndrome, I was started off with Havana syndrome. At the time, I was still working for the federal government. I filled out the paperwork and sent it in. I got a email that my information was sent directly to the local FBI because I was a senior executive in the federal government. I've never heard a thing about it. Electrical shocks. I've actually had my townhouse, my first one that I bought here when I came back to New Hampshire. There was something that I could feel the electricity in my floor, and it was actually measurable. I had the power company shut the power off, and I had somebody come and check it, and it was reading really high electrical volts. Even my water faucet had electricity to it. Neighborhood stalking and harassment, damage to my townhouse in Kentucky, and at 2 townhouses in New Hampshire. What they do, and I know with the direct energy, they're not next door. My targeting, they are. And I think it's because of the chemical and what they're doing to me, because they've breached the wall between my unit and the next unit in my current townhouse in my one in Kentucky. I've had things stolen from my house and stolen from my office at work. Mobbing at least 2 places at work, maybe a third. What mobbing is one person, they'll get to one person, they tell a lie about the targeted individual, and they get the person to go and spread this rumor around. And once everybody hears the rumor, then they get them to start doing other things to the target. And they may or may not really understand what they're doing. I'd like to think that they don't understand exactly what they're doing, but they actually involved torturing me at 2 different jobs that I've left. They drain the oil from my car on a regular basis. And I had a car that never had a problem with oil. And I moved to Utah, and I went and I had my oil changed. And he says, you know, you're down 3 quarts of oil. You're lucky your car still runs. And so I don't know why, but he changed the oil. And then 2 weeks later, I was like, I'm just going to go and have them double check my car. And I brought my car in, and sure enough, it was down oil again. There was no leak. I wasn't burning oil. There was no reason. They checked my car. There was no reason for there not to be oil. And every other week I would bring my car in, and every other week it would take at least a quart of oil, sometimes 2. And I finally bought a different car, and it stopped. They attempted the mobbing at my church. I'm very involved in my church. And I finally went to one person and who I knew had heard whatever the rumor is. I don't know that this person was spreading anything, but I just know that they had heard it because they looked at me different. They treated me a little bit different. And you could tell they were a little bit uncomfortable around me. And I mentioned that somebody is spreading rumors about me that aren't true. And I don't know what the rumor is. Nobody will tell me. And fortunately, I have known the deacon at our church for about 20 years. And I said, I'm going to talk to the deacon about this because I don't know what's going on. And the mobbing seemed to have stopped. It's been over a month now for that. I have experienced physical, psychological abuse as far as my sleep is interrupted every single night. And sometimes I would get the total of maybe an hour and a half of sleep, and sexual torture. They're using an electronic way to harass me, and vibrations is the foundation of it. But of course, the vibrations with the electrical shock and the chemicals, the 3 of them cause a lot of problems. And they're targeting my genitalia, the anus, and the stomach, as far as the colon. They want to humiliate you. I think they were trying to make me incontinent of stool. I'm not sure that these people understand that there's a drug out there called Imodium. So I've rectified that very quickly. Next slide. So survival, you need to stay positive. Anybody who's being targeted, it's understandable that you would go through times when there's some hopelessness, some depression, you're isolated. So you have to stay positive, and you have to focus on things that are going to increase your vibration. And I am very thankful that I have a good faith, and I have a good faith community. I have a fantastic family. My family has stuck up for me. They've tried to get my family to turn on me, and my family stuck up for me. But I focus on the positive, and that's why I don't like to talk about my individual targeting. But I think it's important for the medical community to know that this is happening to people. For the past 2 years, every time I would go in to see my primary care provider, she'd say, "What's going on behind my ear? I have these things in my ear." And there's a constant, they say that they target the back of your head. They're also targeting the back of my ear. And these things that are in my ear, they make this constant high-pitched buzzing sound, but it'll almost sound like an engine that's winding up. And that is what's, that they're using that, I think, to spread the chemical to different parts of my body, because you have different frequencies in different organs of your body. And I've counted, I think, 5 or 6 different frequencies that they have used on me. And I've been able to fight them off, thank God. I do think it's important for you to know that you have to be cautious about who you trust or who you talk to about being targeted, because if you talk to somebody that is never going to believe you, it's easy for them to get sucked in to work against you. So just be cautious about that. I do recommend alarms in your home, cameras in your home. They can be hacked, especially the Wi-Fi cameras. I don't recommend the Wi-Fi cameras. The hardwired work better. I have had all of mine hacked, so I have actually caught them using my cell phone or my iPad and leaving that there to record, because they can't hack that. It's recording onto that particular, to the phone or to the iPad. Do not agree to go to the emergency room for an emergency psych evaluation. The only way that you would have to do that is if the police actually put you in protective custody, because they're worried about you being a threat to yourself or others. Don't give anybody a reason for them to say that. So in other words, when things start happening, you really need to bring things in, and you need to take a couple deep breaths and not respond, and don't say things that they're going to use against you. So here is where my expertise comes in, is the diagnosis, because they'll diagnose people with paranoia, psychosis, schizophrenia. A lot of people have been inappropriately diagnosed with these things. And I want the world to know that if you get this diagnosis and you disagree with it, there is something called the DSM-5 criteria. And that diagnosis needs to meet this criteria, and the provider should document appropriately how you're meeting that criteria for that diagnosis. Next slide. So this is certainly, if I was diagnosing this person, this would be like a whole page. This is a real small part of it, but I just want to use this to show you how it should at least be started. This patient meets criteria for a diagnosis of schizophrenia. They've had 14-month history of delusions, and this should be in quotations actually. I'm being targeted by the government and tortured, and auditory hallucinations of people whispering, talking, or putting them down or demeaning them. Mr. X states that his marriage is poor due to his symptoms and that he was fired from his job 6 months ago. Mr. X has not had steady employment for the past 6 months. Although Mr. X meets criteria for schizophrenia, he presents with some information about V2K, which he insists is the voices that he is hearing. Mr. X also reports depressive symptoms and hopelessness at times. He denies suicidal ideation, homicidal ideation, and he has never had an attempt of suicide. Now, there should be a lot more information documented here. There's a lot more information that would be used to support this diagnosis of schizophrenia. And I know that it won't work in this slide presentation, but this, if you click on this hyperlink here, that's going to bring you to an online version of the DSM-5. And it's, I'll show you, it's a big book. And it's almost 1,400 pages, but it is online and it's free. So don't go out and buy the book. If you question something, go ahead and look on that and do the best that you can to determine whether you think that that diagnosis is justified or not. And then, yes, here it is. Okay, so that third thing on the far left, if you click on the far left, a little more, go over to the left a little more. Yes, click there. So there's your table of contents. Now, if you go down to DSM-5, go up a little bit, one more, click on that. Oh, no, go one, I'm sorry, preface, it's real small. What you want to do, go down one more. So I'm really sorry. Okay, here we are. Let's go scroll down to schizophrenia a little bit more. It's not very far. Okay, so stop there and now look at where it says just schizophrenia, and it has a schizophrenia, I think it's 113 or F20.9 is on the left. Click on that 113 and that's going to bring you to the page in the book that says, here it is. So this is the criteria. There's several pages that you have to meet in order to have that diagnosis of schizophrenia. So this is all available to you online for free. If you are one of these people who are diagnosed with schizophrenia, you can look up psychosis, post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety. There's a whole bunch of paranoia, personality disorders. All of that stuff is in this book. And look it up at first by yourself. And then if you need to seek assistance, then seek a psychiatric provider. But I caution you on who you seek, because the psychiatric community is involved in this targeted program. Okay, so next slide. I think that's the end of my. So that was the end of what I had prepared for you. I'm sure that there are lots of questions. I get
yes.
I went really fast and I did a high level. I didn't get down into the weeds because I knew we only had 15 minutes, but I could this could go on for hours.
Hours, days. Sarah, I know you got one, but I just wanted to reiterate some point. Dr. Linda, you were a senior executive service. That's top bureaucracy. You don't get higher.
I wasn't SES. I was senior executive, but I was at the local VA hospital. So they have a director, medical director. They have a chief of staff, the associate director for patient care service, which was me, and then an associate director.
My point in saying this, you're a very senior person in the government, is you're not safe. And this is what I want other people to understand. They're going after everybody, right? And I got to tell you, I don't think there's people pressing the buttons anymore. I think it's artificial intelligence. We've all been marked for destruction. It doesn't matter if you're a cop, if you're a judge, or a politician. You and your family are also marked for destruction.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh, Sarah, you're on mute. I was wondering why I didn't hear you.
There we go. I always talk. Yeah, what the heck? I'm muting myself. Well, I want to thank you for coming because I know it takes a lot of courage to do what you're doing. I want to ask you, part of the goal of is to figure out what it would take to drive someone nuts, right? To drive you and how many people start to do psychotic behaviors because of what they're doing to people, and then how much of it is just misdiagnosis of somebody who's really being targeted, and then they misdiagnose kind of the combination, because I think it would be hard after dealing with this for day in, day out, to not develop some kind of psychosis.
So they have the answer to that, not me, right? Because they have all the paperwork from every one of us who are being targeted.
Sure, that's what they're...
Right. I have been a guest on a radio show several times, and I get calls frequently, and people talk to me about things. I'm going to say, of the people that I've talked to and have called me, I don't think they are psychotic. I know that they have a diagnosis of either psychosis, paranoia, whatever. But I'm going to say I'm just starting to take consults when I get their medical record, and I need all of their medical records. So before I can actually say that they do or do not have that diagnosis, I would have to see what was their behavior, what was observed by the provider that gave them that diagnosis. And so like I said, I'm just starting to do that. I have my own practice, but I'm only licensed in New Hampshire and Massachusetts. You don't necessarily need a psychiatrist to treat you right now. If you're questioning your diagnosis, you need a consult to look and say, do I have this? I mean, do I give in and take the antipsychotic? I think they're more likely to have anxiety and maybe some depression. It would not, I can't imagine anybody going through this to not have a period of hopelessness. I am the most positive. Yes. I mean, I thank God how many times an hour every day. I'm so thankful that He has given me my faith, and that is what has saved me. I know what's going to happen before it happens to me, so I'm able to protect myself. And it can't be anything other than God. That's the only thing it can be.
What a beautiful message. Let me ask you this, Doctor, because it's really important. You said a few things that just blew me away. We've actually had to rescue, my law firm, Dr. Vliet, working together, soldiers that, just what you described, the police show up, hey, you're exhibiting psychotic behavior, we're going to lock you away for a health, safety, and welfare check, or an examination or whatever, and then that's it. They had already prepared in the jail all of the antipsychotic drugs, really heavy ones, and it was a battery of them, like 5 different syringes all lined up. For the second that they had him in their care and custody, they're going to start jacking him full of stuff. And what I wanted people to understand is during a national emergency, any public health emergency, again, we're under medical martial law. What that means is that public health, law enforcement, the judiciary, and corrections all become one. So be careful, folks. Exactly what you said, Doctor. If they start going down this road, the goal of this enterprise is to get you, is to take you away, and you are not coming out again. And it's also international. There are people in Germany, I know, that are suffering this, and other countries. So this is a global effort. When you're trying to kill 7 billion people, there will be many vectors of death, and this is another one. And you said it yourself. Targeted until death, and I can't imagine. We got to figure out how the finger is on the button. Is that a robot finger on the button or something? Because this is insane.
It's absolutely insane. This is not the first time. If you look at MK Ultra, right? I mean, they got caught. They were given hallucinogenics. So I mean, that's right. And they got caught at it. COINTELPRO. I mean, so this isn't the first time that our government has worked against the citizens and done this to them. They're going to get caught with this too.
But then what? I mean, this is the point. They don't care anymore, Doctor. They're in charge. There is no rule of law. They just make it up as they go along. Which way is the wind blowing? And that's it. They just make it up. And then this is the part that bothers me is you got people who blindly follow illegal orders.
That's right.
That's
So
the
how
point.
many-
I want them to understand, hey, police dude, military dude, you're taking away people. That's you. You are also going to be taken away. We are all going to be taken away.
Do you have any indication through your experience of how many psychiatrists and psychologists understand that this is going on, so that when somebody comes, do they automatically get a diagnosis of being, having some kind of psychosis, or is there starting to be an understanding that people are targeted?
So can you ask that question one more time? Because I wanted to say something that may or may not answer your question.
Oh, well, I was going to say, based on your experience, are other psychologists and psychiatrists starting to understand that people are targeted, or do they automatically just assume that they have some kind of psychosis?
So there are some of us who actually have patients who are targeted. I have a colleague who a couple of years ago mentioned to me about a patient that she had, and I can't speak anything about the specifics, but anyways, and I said something and she goes, "Are you targeted too?" And I said, yes. And there are a lot of psychiatrists or people in the psychiatric field that know exactly what's happening because they're doing it. And I was a victim of that. I had taken a position at a inpatient psychiatric hospital. It was a 3-month position. I was helping them out. And about a month after I got there, all of a sudden, the stuff that started getting really bad at work. And it was your typical trying to make you go off, like humiliating me at a meeting. Like I would say something and then somebody would pipe in and say what I said and expand upon it as if it was more important than what I had about my own patient that I was managing. And there was, that's where they went into my office and they would steal from me. Something silly. It's stuff that makes a normal person that's not being targeted would say, wow, I must be losing it. I must be getting old. I am in my 60s. Maybe I'm getting old, but I had that, the Yeti cup with the magnet that slides back and forth. So the magnet was removed and I had the magnet on because I closed it, and when the cup was empty, I closed it and put it in my bag. This person broke into my office, went through my bag and took the magnet off of my Yeti cup. And it's just a way to say, what are you going to do about it? It's just a way to torture the individual.
What are you going to do about it? That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Doctor, thank you. Folks
Thank you.
Can catch up with you. How? What's the best way to track you down?
Okay, so why don't I send my email? I do have my own practice, but I think what I'll do is I'm going to give a personal email for this, and I'll give it to
Give it to Melissa, and she'll get it out.
You can pass it. Okay.
Yeah, super. Well, thank you, and God bless you for
Thank
being here and
you.
sharing a lot of personal things that had to be uncomfortable to share. It was really, really kind of you to do that. And now we all know, because otherwise we wouldn't necessarily know these symptoms. It's really tremendous. And as you were talking about those things, I'm sitting here thinking about me and others that I know, and I'm like, wow. So that explains a lot.
Yeah. And they do like to target women in those places.
Oh, dear Lord. Okay. Melissa, with that, I think we've got Dr. Resnick on deck. Oh, there we go. Okay. How do you hear us, Doctor?
Hello. Hi.
Wonderful. Welcome. Thank you for coming to the symposium. Did you want to, Sarah, say anything before we get started on Dr. Resnick's presentation?
Yeah, I just want to say it's hopeful that's why I asked that question. It's hopeful that more people are recognizing it, and that she was saying there's other psychiatrists and psychologists that are acknowledging this is going on. That's a huge improvement. I always like to bring the hope out in this, that just the fact that the awareness is growing. That's a big deal.
It. Well, to your point, Dr. Resnick, a psychiatrist by training, and here to share your own journey And I
Yes.
didn't know if you were a targeted individual or just treating people.
Both. It's
Wow.
always the case. I actually I can actually make some comments about what the previous presenter was basically elaborating on, and then
Yeah.
uh,
You're on deck. It's your turn, doctor. So you have the floor.
sure. I mean, the point is that a lot of folks in the mental health community, they're especially in the psychologists, well, in general, I think it's deliberately by design. They are not taught anything in regards to like basically biological psychiatry, and then the notion that mental health symptoms can be created biologically and artificially with we just kind of get centered on basically the Freudian couch and then pushing pills, and then that's kind of how it's designed to be. Well, and it's very kind of manipulative. Anyway, so just to kind of briefly about myself. So you probably all heard that basically this phenomenon targeting does not just cover the land of the free, home of the brave. It's basically it follows you even if you travel overseas as a tourist or permanently relocate. So there is basically the same kind of technology available, and I think openly shared with was used to be a Soviet Union. So I was basically born in 1974 in the suburb of St. Petersburg, then Leningrad, and I think it's also common with targets is that it's not just a single individual. I mean, it's a multi-generational, and so what happens is you find out about the targeting way several years later. Basically, you red pill yourself. Anyway, so I was basically I grew up with my grandma was my maternal grandma was a pediatrician, and mom was a microbiologist. Basically, what my dad was I think the targeting started with my dad. He had a lot of temper issues, and it was kind of almost like prophetic that I was being told when all this happened, like when I was 1, that he had issues. He would explode over the fact that he basically the decision was being made for him, and he was almost like hung up on that. And then I kind of now realized that this is unfortunately it was like predictive programming, because he was kind of felt like a tormented soul, and that's why he was trying to fight it. But obviously, by the time you're ready to fight, you get your adrenaline pumping, and it comes out as very potentially violent and basically and you cannot sustain your relationship. So anyway, so my parents divorced. That was like 1. So the first experience, I think, was in the Soviet public school. It was middle school, yeah. So that's when I first had my tinnitus. So that was I was literally presenting in class, and I wasn't like particularly nervous, and it was like and then suddenly I had this ringing, and then I started getting dizzy, and I had to sit down. Otherwise, I thought I was going to faint. So, and that was my first experience. And then after that, I had something similar happen a few times afterwards. So, but I think the targeting comes and goes, and it basically it's about what they want you for. But basically, if they want you to basically if they want to use it for their purposes, they will basically they will turn the targeting off. Like when let's say you want to learn about medicine. So in medical school, it wasn't like too bad. But after that, once you are exposed to the truth, the more you're exposed to like what the deep state criminality, that's when the targeting gets more intense. So basically, it's a game of basically the more you want to know the truth, then yeah, we'll tell you the truth, but there's a price to pay. So they will have to find a way to compromise you. It could be sexual, it could be other ways. Sorry. I was kind of my experience, I guess my interest in mental health started kind of with that not the events of 9/11. I was studying for my boards in Brooklyn, and on that day, and then basically I was just moved by the sheer amount of the psychological impact of this event on the people of all the 5 boroughs, particularly Lower Manhattan and Brooklyn. And I was seeing it myself, and that's kind of how I was a medical student at the time, obviously a 3rd year, and that event basically made I just kind of wanted to know more, and I wanted to know what makes somebody develop PTSD and what doesn't. So that I matched, and I did my psychiatry residency training in upstate New York in Syracuse. It was a very good program. We weren't they weren't pushing medication as much. We got good grounding in psychotherapy, which I'm grateful for. But I also I found out later on. Well, I mean, I basically made a conclusion that the program itself, they were using it as a testing ground for targeting, because I had at least one colleague who basically suddenly in the 2nd year of residency, she was ready, like normal, down to earth, like nothing psychologically wrong with her that I know of. Suddenly in the 2nd year of residency, she started cutting herself, and then she started basically trying to almost like becoming like sexual with our male colleagues. And I was kind of finding it odd, and to my knowledge, that she didn't have any kind of basically reasons to do so, because she was keeping it together. I didn't have any reasons for her to be suddenly start acting like what's obviously now known as a borderline personality disorder. So and that was I mean, obviously, but at that time I didn't know that was what was going on. But later I found out that there was other residents where suddenly they would change, their behavior would change, and they would also become like even hypersexual for no reason. And now we put two together. Then now I knowing about the technology, the different Wi-Fi towers and cell towers, and how that can be used to manipulate somebody's behavior, it kind of made sense. So okay, then I briefly worked in Pennsylvania, was like an outpatient position, and until I met my wife, and she was at that time administrative director for a community mental health agency in central New Jersey, in Monmouth County. So kind of but that's where I relocated there in 2009, and I've been mostly working with in different agencies, community mental health agencies in New Jersey. Just get to my sorry. So I remember there was one job that I stayed with for a while. They seemed to be like with certain things started happening that I found to be, back then they seemed to be kind of strange. It seemed like we obviously mainstream calls us conspiracy theories, and then we our response to that is we call ourselves coincidence theorists. So and there were certain coincidental things that started happening. Suddenly, before basically I was let go of that job, one of the patients basically brutally, violently committed suicide. Another patient was basically knocking in my office door and was basically and then they had to evacuate other patients that surrounding that incident, and that was also unusual. And that's and this is I later found out is one of the deep state tactics that so you notice when certain things are start happening at a high frequency, that means there may be some change of scenery for you to look forward to. But I guess I wanted to more focused on the bulk of my targeting started when I was working at the New Jersey State Inpatient Facility, and basically I was there for 6 years, and I think that's when I started really, I guess, waking up to what was going on, and I was basically got into the obviously that sucked into that addictive rabbit hole, different 9/11 truth videos, and basically it was one patient that I was working with at that time. He came to us. He had no reasons to be there whatsoever. He has a case that he phoned in the false bomb threat, and he was very anxious. But his presentation did not meet any criteria whatsoever to be admitted to a long-term state inpatient facility. And then he tells me that he was basically being like harassed by police. He was getting pulled over for no reasons, some harassment by police. And it kind of didn't make sense. And then he told me that he was supposed to be at the SWIFT conference on 9/11. He was supposed to be at that conference that took place at the top of the North Tower, and he luckily missed that train, and then he didn't make it. But he knew he had some inside information as to what's going to be talked about in that conference, and obviously nobody from that conference survived because it was obviously above the plane's impact. So I think he basically realized that he was targeted, and I decided to kind of at least mention to him that I think I know what's going on, and so I basically tried to like a private talk with him. And then that night, when I was basically getting home, discovered one of my tires was basically slashed several times. So I had to hobble like to the tire place just to get like to be able to get home. What else? There was another basically we had other patients that basically the state psychiatric facilities is basically they're used as basically as a housing for deep state foot soldiers, basically folks that commit crimes under the influence of MK Ultra, mind control. They commit crimes on a specified date, and they basically then they basically ruled as not guilty by reason of insanity or incompetent to stand trial, and they end up basically it's next to being in a prison, except it's not a prison. There's no bars, but you still your freedom is still being deprived. For you, especially if you're like not guilty by reason of insanity, you could be staying for like as much as 5 to 10 years. So and then everyone, the community is so concerned that we cannot let this person out. Well, because what they did was so dangerous. I mean, you have like people that they would basically sexually assault somebody, okay, and assaulted a woman in front of a child. Yes, but the giveaway, the key is that it's not. They don't normally act this way. they don't have like an extensive rap sheet. So they had one incident where they were violent, but they don't have like a huge criminal record. So that's how you can tell that this is not like true schizophrenia. It masks it as a schizophrenia, but it's still a mind control, because in true schizophrenia you have to have consistent patterns of behavior. So something that happens for like 6 months in a row of the losing touch of reality, as opposed to like a blip on the radar screen. And that's what those people, the TIs, basically they do things that are outside of their morals and ethics, and then they basically locked away because they're being used as guinea pigs on the inpatient units of the state facilities. Sorry, just so like we had one patient there that basically a lot of times what the deep state does is that they prey on folks if you have any kind of basically developmental disability, so basically cognitively impaired. So when you're cognitively impaired, you cannot wisen up to the deep state crimes, and they can basically sell you any Brooklyn Bridge, so you cannot fight. So that's why they like to prey on those folks. So we had one guy who was basically cognitively delayed, and he basically all of a sudden he would just explode. He would basically become like Hulk, the angry flipping tables, and there was he would become like an automaton. There was no reason of talking any sense to him. He was just basically like in that destructive zone. And then we find out that that person was apparently there was some kind of fraud against him committed by the legal system. There was another person who was with the same first and last name who had charges of manufacturing and distributing drugs, like crystal meth, and he apparently had those charges that somebody dumped on him by the system. So basically, he is, and because of that, when he got more or less stable, we tried to find housing for him in the community. We couldn't do that because of he had this rap sheet thrown at him for something he didn't do. So it took a while for this to be cleared up. But it's interesting that the social worker who discovered this, she ended up getting reassigned to another unit. And then so when I started to kind of put the pieces together as well, I suddenly end up getting a letter in the mail with a priority mail envelope. My wife got with a termination letter from my previous job, and it had like very disturbing. Like there's a sage soot smeared on the paper, which is I found out later it has a satanic symbology behind it. So what else? There was another patient where also he did not need to be admitted to especially not on the long-term unit, not on the long-term unit in that facility. He somehow ended up there, so he had to go back to jail, and but he basically he was not he was more or less stable. He was basically he did not meet any criteria for involuntary medication. So he was found to be competent to stand trial, and he was supposed to go to back to jail. And his attorney on the Zoom conference basically expressed her frustration that I cannot talk to him. He's delusional. He's not making sense. He's not helping me. He's only working against. I'm trying to defend him, and he's working against me. And we cannot medicate him. I don't know what to do. This is really frustrating. Nobody's helping me. So basically, I was trying to be a good guy, and I reached out to her later over the phone and explained to her this is happening is because it's not a true schizophrenia; it's a mind control. And the frustrating part is that the symptoms come and go, the psychosis comes and goes, and that because it's not a true mental illness. And so basically, this private conversation somehow she basically ratted me out to the hospital's legal representative, and then this basically was passed on to our department chairman, who later they called me to the office, and it was basically like I felt like it was like pretty much like the Agent Smith interrogating Neo, even mentally in mind control. It was basically, I mean, I wouldn't say it was scary, but it was kind of inappropriate. So I had to. I also felt that this department chairman was also GI himself, and so I actually tried to say no, it's not a conspiracy. There's technology that is responsible for the behavior, and so he actually listened to me a little bit. And I sent him a link to some videos, so maybe to get him to kind of face the truth. Anyway, so basically after that, after I had this being called to the department chairman's office, I was supposed to go back to I had a private practice office near my home, and I wanted to find out that the building was basically, the door was tied to both ends. I was like, basically, I wasn't even allowed to get into the building. I just wanted to basically e-sign some like real estate documents. That's all. It was like a time-sensitive issue, and they basically put those roadblocks on just for me to do that.
Just to be extra cruel to you, Doctor. Thank you for sharing all of that. And I'm taken away by the way that this goes back to the Soviet Union when you were a child, effectively. My God, I mean, it's truly international. It's also thuggery because you're talking about your tires getting slashed and things. And I'm sorry, Dr. Pineda also said that physical people showing up. So this is a much bigger thing. And it's been going on a lot longer. And what I'm trying to say is it's got to be above governments because otherwise you couldn't coordinate such an attack if it was government by government. It has to be above governments. The Bank for International Settlements being the owner, effectively, all governments. And the last thing I want to say, and then I'll shut up. There's no wonder why there are so many deaths from fentanyl and other drugs. People are probably trying to escape with anything and everything they can. It's horrid. And God bless you for sharing. Thank you for coming and explaining it to us.
Yeah, I mean, I was basically there are other things that I try to skim. I mean, I kind of started disturbing that I have like something similar with Dr. Pimenta, that there was experience like the genital stimulation, and there was one. I remember I had a patient that I came across with who was he was in a relationship with a girlfriend, and he was pretty. I would. It was regular, intercourse, but nothing insane. But he had this urge to masturbate on top of the having regular sex. So wow. This is not natural events, not natural phenomena.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. I know we're short on time. Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead,
I just have a quick question. It kind of goes back to the last presentation too. In the system, the system worked completely against you. I mean, you were trying to inform people and trying to get them to see something else. Did you make progress, or were there people in the system that were sympathetic to what was going on, or that were more aware, or was it pretty much kind of a deer in the headlights across the board?
I mean, I have to basically the best way I think with TIs end up coping is basically when you have to visualize everything, conceptualize everything as this proverbial matrix. So basically, the people in the matrix are folks that are around you that are part of the targeting, and they're made to act in a certain way to enhance your targeting, and the ones that may be sympathetic, but they have to basically they officially they can't acknowledge it, but they'll be like a wink, wink, send me information. But officially they cannot obviously support me. Even my significant other, basically I started basically as I was getting more aware of the TI, and I obviously got involved in all the support groups online. Everyone was encouraging me, you have to document everything so I made a statement, and basically the day I released the statement, I ended up going to the ER, psych ER. So I mean, under the pretense, under the guise that I was going to get, my psychiatrist told my wife that I was going to get an MRI, brain MRI, to make sure there's nothing wrong. But I wasn't admitted, but I knew it was basically a charade. I was actually in the ER. I was before they took my phone away. I put on the song "All the World Is a Stage." I was playing it. To just kind of keep up spirits.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your testimony to also help make sure that your patients' stories were also heard, and people who came forward to you with this information, because I think sometimes people who have never heard of this before, their first thought is these people are crazy, right? That's like their first thought. People who have never heard of this. So it really helps. Like personally, I had a grandmother that had schizophrenia, and she didn't say, that she's being attacked by the government. She was saying other things, that like aliens live in her basement, things like that. Like I feel like it's a different thing between like schizophrenia and what you're actually experiencing as targeted individuals. But thank you so much, Dr. Resnick.
Yeah, I was gonna say that how they taught us in the mainstream medicine is it's really like basically they taught us to learn based on if something sounds crazy, it cannot be true, as opposed to you have to evaluate each idea based on the supporting evidence and evidence against it. That's how you arrive at the truth, not based on whether something sounds crazy.
That is really valuable. That is hugely valuable information and advice. And short on time, and I'm going to have to leave here in a minute. So with that, I'd like to say hello to, it's a Polish name, Lipka.
Yes,
Dr. Lipka. Dzień dobry pani.
So actually, we pre-recorded Joanna's testimony last night. She'll be available for Q&A after live, but we pre-recorded, and I just wanted to give a little disclaimer that I put together this video and added subtitles in English. However, some of the words are a little funky for the AI's, this artificial intelligence created the captions, and some of the words are a little off. So I wanted to apologize with that, but you should be able to notice which ones are wrong. But here we go. We're going to do Dr. Joanna's pre-record. Todd, thank you so much for joining on. I'll take over for you afterwards and help Sarah facilitate the roundtable discussion after Dr. Joanna's presentation.
Thank you both. God bless, ladies. God bless everybody. Thank you for coming.
Thank you,
and
Todd.
us.
Hello, I'm Dr. Lipka, Joanna. I'm a Polish pediatrician living in Warsaw. I would like to tell you about the events of my life during several years. And first of all, I would like to present myself. I have studied medicine in France and
Melissa,
in
are we supposed to be seeing a
Polish Medical
presentation right now on
University
screen?
in Warsaw. After my studies, I worked at Pediatrics Institute in Warsaw, also performing my skills at Necker Hospital in Paris. When my problem started, I worked in a private outpatient clinic in Warsaw. So I have a lot of practice, patients, etc. Unhappily, I have to move in 2013 to France because I couldn't live in Poland quietly. In France, I worked at hospitals, and I have private pediatric practice with a lot of patients and a lot of on-call duties at a private clinic. because of the cancer illness of my father, I have to move back to Poland in 2019. And now I'm in Warsaw still. My experience as a target individual has begun in May 2010. It was the first period. It was May 2010 till March 2013. I apologize for my English. The beginning of difficulties began as difficulties to get asleep because of the very sharp pain in my genital region of my genital region of my body. It was night deprivation of sleep. The pain, sometimes the pain was so intensive that I should come out of my bed in the middle of the night, and I drive my car in the town until the pain disappear. Of course, I tried to find the reason of this pain. So I consulted a neurologist, doctor, and gynecologist, of course, but no pathology was found. So I didn't understand at those moments what happened. So instinctively, and I have the sensation that if I leave the place, the pain will disappear. So after 3 years of deprivation of sleep, using some medicines, even if I use medicines, it wasn't better. So I decided to leave Poland and to change the country. So I went to France. In France, I could very quickly sleep without any medicament, any drugs, and the pain disappeared miraculously. So I could work on a very on the very busy wards of maternity and admissions, etc., without any problems. Of course, in France, I found that a little bit of gang stalking was around me. People who speak normally to me at the beginning tried to avoid me, to not to see me, and I couldn't find really the reason. Of course, not all the people, and I have some friends in France, but there were some situations which were difficult for me. I didn't understand why the people turned over and go and don't see me. And there was also other type of gang stalking, but I don't want to speak about it for my safety, I think. And there was, for example, my neighbors which complained about noise I make. They could hear my steps on the ceiling, and they complained that I shut too loudly a drawer or the door, etc. So it was very strange also for me. But I managed. It was difficult a little bit sometimes, but I managed. So unhappily, after 7 years, I should come back to Poland because my father was very ill. He has a cancer, so I wanted to take care about him, and I think it was a good decision for him. But after 3 months of my life in Poland, I began to have a very big, very intensive headache during the night. So I became in the morning. I became very dizzy. I have some nausea. I wanted to vomit, and I was a little bit have some difficulties to concentrate myself. So really, I feel dizzy. But it disappear when I go away of my apartment, of my home, without any drugs once again. But the pain was really very intensive. I worked also online, and after some time, I have some headache also during the day during my duties. So I have to change the place in my apartment. I went from my room when I sleep to the kitchen, etc. So sometimes it was a little bit better for a while. So I move again, etc. What was very difficult, very strange, that the pain disappeared when I leave my home. After it, I have some problems with my skin. My skin in the morning, I wake up with some redness on my face, also some red mark around or in a line on my neck. It was a little bit painful, so I went to the dermatologist consultation, and they didn't find any allergies. Anyway, I don't have allergies, which I checked before because of my pulmonary problems. So no allergies. So they treated me as after laser therapy for the beauty reason. And it was twice. I waked twice with a redness on my face. It was in October 2021. Then the sleep deprivations will be still there. I have some kind of pain, itching, sharp itching, etc. The most important thing began when I was at balcony once in this September 2021. I feel a very sharp and painful, very sharp pain in my head on the both side, in both hemispheres, and I should sit down in my room and wait, and it passes in 2, 3, 5 minutes maximum, and then I didn't have any neurologic problems. I feel quite well. The pain passes, and I feel well. I go to the neurologist consultation, of course. So she told me to go to do some cerebral scanner, which shows after 3 months I went to do it, which shows 2 little necrotic marks in both hemispheres, on both sides of my brain. It was described by radiologists like non-simultaneous necrosis. That means that the necrosis, the marks didn't appear at the same time. But I know that I had a pain in both sides on my of my head. So it was this event. Of course, I have written a lot of papers to the lawyers, to the prosecutors. I went even on the order of the judge. I went to the police, and a policeman listened my history, but they don't want to trust us, and even I have asked the policeman to change the beginning of those tortures, and he didn't do it. And the prosecutor write me that the same dates I asked to be changed. So they don't want to help us even in changing the dates of events. So I think those procedures are really installed by services. I have found in a military journal an article which speaks about action of microwaves weapon. They have a lot of weapons, laser weapon, microwave, radial weapon. They are very interested in this matter, and they developed it. So they write that the effect of the microwave weapon is to, for example, enhance the temperature of the body. So when they shoot the soldier with this weapon, he has the sensation of boiling, and it's quite possible. I think so. So they have also a lot of programs which they developed, and they write in a program I have on my desk here that the experience on the people should be done. Obviously should be done. They don't explain what kind of people there be. So I think there is some proofs that something is wrong in our society. Also, I have some records of the electromagnetic field, which is too big, which depass the normal values. So. But nor my photos nor the records of the electromagnetic field also. This is the lamp which was destroyed in my apartment. It was this destroyed side was on the at the side of the window. So it seems that from the window went some radiation, and the bulb was completely into pieces. I have also the report of the radiation, but decided with my friends that we should speak to everybody about this kind of procedure and the mechanism of action. People don't know that such kind of weapons are developed, and that is the future of the military of the war, and military departments are very interested in this kind of weapons, and which take beginning in the atomic explosion. They found it after the atomic explosion. So it's all I would like to tell you. Ask how artificial intelligence learn things, how it is so intelligent, how it learn. I think it learn from us, and it is a part of the aim which interest those who torture us. I wanted to help the most vulnerable people as children, and at the end of my practice, I realized that I am destroyed by bad people who didn't pay attention on what they do, on the consequences and of the pain they do, do in other people. Thank you. So I hope we'll manage to stop this kind of practice, which is really brutal and illegal and unjust practice. Thank you. Goodbye.
Hello.
Hi.
Oh, hello. Yes.
Well,
I'm here.
thank you so much for giving that presentation. Are you working with other targeted individuals in your practice now?
No, I'm a pediatrician, so I don't have any access, and I have some friends, and both with one of them, we have engaged lawyer, and she has some audience at the court. And my lawyer have arrived until the judge. But after the audience with the judge sent me to the policeman, and the prosecutor once again didn't want to continue to learn about about my complaint. So he finished the plaintiff. He shut just the procedure, and he didn't want to continue to make some investigations. And I have another friend which has an awful gang stalking, and it's very difficult for her. So there is about 200 target individual, at least in Poland. They are organized in some organization which I don't like too much because I think they don't do sufficiently. But what I would like to say that what is important, it is to tell to our societies that directed weapon exist, that energy weapon, energy directed weapon, yes, exist, and that it is real. Because when I began to have my problems, I didn't realize that it is possible. Also, that remote neuronal control is possible, as Dr. Giordano told us. My friend says that a lot of people are engaged in this procedure, but I think average citizens don't have any idea what they do in the institutes, and I think we have to speak, perhaps not what we feel or what we experience, because it's too difficult, but speak at the beginning of the mechanism of the weapons they have, and secondly, that those weapons can be used without any control of the constitutional organs, or they are involved in this procedure, perhaps. So I think, and one thing I should say, that here I have a paper from France West with Elon Musk but it's not about him. From France West, they speak about an act, a law, and act they have. It is already
Uh-oh.
We lost her.
Yeah. All right. Well, we have to transition now anyway, so she'll be able to
Okay.
hop back in if it kicks her out to continue to our roundtable discussion. I'm not sure what's going on there with hers, but so let me go ahead and bring in our previous speakers. We've got Dr. Linda Pimenta, we've got Dr. Lynn Bear, we've got Dr. David Resnick and Richard Lighthouse available for the roundtable discussion. I'm going to sit here quietly and listen to you brilliant minds talk.
Oh, I'm sorry, I can't continue to speak. I'm sorry.
Oh, well, let's move on to, since we have maybe about 15 minutes here, a little bit more. I want to ask about solutions. I think it's super important. I talked to Richard a few times, like offline, about solutions, because there's multiple things that we need to do. I really think we need to move into the solution phase as well as the awareness phase. But what kind of solutions are out there, and what are the things we need to do? We need to make people more aware, and we need to have solutions to counteract this. Can somebody answer some of that? What you think?
I think we have to speak about the procedure to the people. For example, to speak about energy-directed weapons, about remote neuronal control, because everybody knows that wireless is possible, but remote neuronal control, it's something like science fiction. It is the first step to speak about it.
I'm afraid I don't have any solution. I tried all kind of shielding. Somebody's making noise, and it doesn't work for me. And when I spoke to the physicists and experts, it's because of the type of energy that is used in these attacks, in what we call neurostrike now. It is a energy that is can be called scalar, longitudinal, or Tesla waves. It the way it oscillates, it instead of oscillating in the way in the perpendicular way in which it propagates. It oscillates like a slinky. It oscillates in the direction of which it propagates. And the next step is forming beams from. Where's the sound coming from?
I'm not sure. Hey guys, if you aren't talking in the moment, please mute yourself just so that we don't have the extra background noise, please. Thank you.
Thank you. So the longitudinal beams, longitudinal waves can form beams, and those beams are basically there's nothing that can stop it. It has a penetration power of a neutrino. It will go through Earth without basically changing the resolution, which is about modern technology allows for like 0.5 centimeter resolution. That's very, very accurate, and there's nothing that will stop it. A lot of people use water bags, and this is probably as close to realistic shielding that you can possibly get. That's my experience. But once again, the physics are simply working against us because of the nature of this energy, and the conversation in the scientific community among physicists. Some physicists simply deny that we can create this type of energy, but the type of trauma and the type of penetrability says otherwise. Yes, we can create these waves, and we can create beams out of these waves. And unfortunately, shielding doesn't work against it. Sorry.
Well, it depends. No, it depends on the scalar. If you're dealing with scalar waves, then we're in trouble, and we need scientists and stuff to come up with stuff. But if we're talking about typical microwave and Wi-Fi, then we can jam those signals, and we should be able to deal with that. Scalar waves are a whole nother thing, and I always say if we're talking scalar waves, we need to start praying, and we need scientists about basis, we should be able to jam those, and we should be able to there's also waves and signals that counteract, that neutralize each other. So we should be able to do stuff with that, but we just need engineers and scientists to step up and create solutions for it. We also can detect solutions that way, but scalar is a whole nother issue. I mean, that's all dark projects, and the average scientists they don't even know it exists. The engineers don't work with it. It's all DARPA advanced projects.
Something I just wanted to mention, I actually have it scrolling across the bottom there now. We work with Hope and Tavon with Fix the World Project, and they actually create these items that are supposed to help with EMF protection. So I'm showing that scroll by at the bottom. The link's also in the description if people want to check those out. I myself am not a targeted individual, so I can't say if they work from personal experience, but I've heard good things from other people. So I'll just mention that just in case.
Yeah, they're great people. Actually, the show that I have up right now is with them. So they're great. She's brilliant. Her family's brilliant. Tavon is an engineer. He's the chief engineer for their organization, and they're they're doing that. They're neutralizing the Wi-Fi waves. But Richard Lighthouse, he's not on the thing right now. We've talked about that too. He has a person who's self-taught. You don't always have to be formally trained, but self-taught because his wife was being targeted, and he came up with some means. His wife and his child came up with some means to jam the signals as well. Now, again, that's microwave and Wi-Fi, but scalar is a whole nother thing. But from what I understand, most is not scalar, but maybe, I don't know, we got to pray if it's scalar, and we got to get more engineers involved.
I think the most troubling thing about testing something, whether it's shielding or not, is because you cannot have a reliable control. So, for example, it can become a part of PSYOP. So you get a new form of shielding, and it all seems like it works for, let's say, a week, and then it comes back. Then you look for another solution, and it drains you financially, drains you physically. So because we can't have a control, we don't know what kind of signal is sent. We can't fully analyze it. There's the frequency of the wave itself, and then the way it's modulated. It means it's pulse, and the frequency of the pulses and the shape of the pulses plays a much higher biological role in terms with interacting with your brain than the carrier wave frequency. So there's that aspect. There are layers of things that we simply cannot control. But yes, people are trying everything, and once again, because there's no control, it can be used against you, because everything you believe, everything you hold truth, can be used as a vulnerability in these PSYOP operations. And the PSYOP operation and the physical interaction, the radio waves, it's all coordinated, and it's coordinated by artificial intelligence. So basically, we are fighting against artificial intelligence that has complete access to our brains, and you can't win against yourself. You simply can't. So once again, sorry.
No, I think.
Well, I have heard stories of
No,
people
I
being
think
able to
I think
successfully.
you have to fight
Yeah, I've heard
against
stories.
people.
Good. Yeah, I've heard stories of people successfully being able to jam these and do this. But the money that's being used to create the weapons is significant, but the money that's being used to fight it is almost non-existent. So we need people to step up. We need like I tell Richard Lighthouse, we need the engineers to step up. We need the people create the biomedical engineers, the computer scientists who are all creating these weapons need to step up and come up with solutions to protect citizens. That's what, and we're getting more of those people, but we need them to come out now and create these solutions.
And something I just wanted to mention about Richard Lighthouse, I don't know if we're having audio and video issues or if he's just on mute. He's there, but we can't hear him or see him. He used to work at NASA, right? He worked there for a long time, and he did a presentation in our last targeted individual symposium that blew me away. I had to show it to my husband. I'll make sure to link the video down to our other targeted individual symposium as well so that you can watch that if you're more interested in this topic.
If I can just, briefly just kind of sound off on this discussion from the mental health standpoint. I've kind of experienced something very similar to what Len is talking about, that, basically the folks offering solutions are, you find out eventually they're kind of control a position, basically. So you get, let's say I used the Tony and Padalarescu nanobucket. I used it and it was great. And then it basically fizzles out. Then you come across something else. Like there's special headphones you can use. You listen to different frequencies, like to, again, jamming devices. And it works for a while, then it, again, fizzles out. And so on and so forth. And sometimes the solutions are also not practical. So the solutions require you to be home, basically, because you can't, if you're working, obviously that's, you can't carry Faraday cage with you around. So basically, what you have to realize in the bigger picture is a psychological operation. The goal of the psychological operation is to get you into the learned helplessness mode, and that's why exactly what the aim is. And the only way to fight it is basically very simple: serenity prayer. You have to realize that the serenity prayer talks about the factors you can change and factors you cannot. So what the things that how the proverbial matrix is going to affect you is not something you may be able to change directly, but you have to always evaluate every single day yourself. Like, what can I do to fight this basically in this public arena, so we don't get into the learned helplessness mode, because that's exactly what it's meant to do.
The other thing I wanted to say as a solution is, the people, if you hear about smart dust and heavy metals, nano-sized heavy metals, and biochips, nano-sized biochips, that stuff we need to get out of our systems. And so we need to do heavy metal detox. It magnifies it. They can still do it without it in your system, but it doesn't work as well. And so the heavy metals and in your system, and graphene oxide magnifies the effects of the Wi-Fi or microwave or any kind of signals that are going into your body. So you got to get those heavy metals out of your body, because it'll really help with decreasing the magnification of the signals.
Yes, but it's unreal. I'm sorry, but it's unreal how to and found and move out those metal. I think it is a very sophisticated science, which should be proved and also communicate to the people, because in our medical staff, if you speak about graphene, you are just to be burned learned at the like in older times. You are just something silly or etc. etc. So there is a lot of work to prove and to enhance our knowledge about things normally we don't speak in medicine, for example. So I think, first of all, we should speak about something which is proved, like energy-directed weapon.
Yes, I want to remind everybody that Wisconsin Law Journal just came out with an article a couple of days ago, and I recommend. Please check my Twitter. It's I published it several times. That actually explains the resistance that the U.S. government has to investigate these cases, and a plausible explanation is that the CIA and the U.S. government has these weapons, and we have a confirmation of multiple experts that it actually does possess. Dr. Giordano openly speaks that we have weapons that cause Havana syndrome. Then there is a 2016, yes, that's the Wisconsin Law article. It explains that this is a possible theory for a cover-up. We simply don't want to investigate something that we do ourselves, especially to our citizens. That would be scandalous and intolerable by most people. So the effort to cover up the truth is real and very, very powerful. And I know I would like everybody to know about that. People who spoke out today reached. We understand there's a lot of risk involved with speaking out. I will be the first one to admit that this is the case, but we simply cannot be silent.
Yes. Once again, there is a law in Chile. France West have published that in October 2021 there's a law in Chile, yes, in Chile, that they say that it is impossible to hack the brain, to manipulate the brain, to record the record the brain, manipulate, and so there's a law protecting the citizen's brain in Chile. Due to one of the congressmen, Giulio Girardi, and a man who started to work at brain program, Rafael Yuste. It is possible to do it.
However, I want to warn you that after passing this law in Chile, targeting in Chile has not stopped, because this new right law only concerned about commercial applications and not about illegal gathering of neurological data.
Illegal.
Yes. Well, I think it just takes a lot more awareness, right? Like this kind of forum that we did will really help with the awareness. Eventually, sometimes things take decades before things become aware enough where people change. And hopefully we just have to keep working at it. And so solutions can come forward. I really appreciate everybody here who had the courage to speak today, that you are all heroes for being able to have that courage. So I appreciate it. Thank you so much for coming today.
Yes, and to keep fighting even though you're being tormented is admirable. So thank you, everybody. Please, again, I'm going to mention for everybody, just for some solutions, please check out Fix the World. It's scrolling by on the ticker now and will be in the description to find hopefully some help. Thank you again, everybody. God bless and take care.
Thank you very much.
It was a pleasure.
For the
Thank
opportunity
you.
to speak.
Thank you.
God bless you. Bye.